Hello and welcome to the Arsenal Way. Back again with you guys for another episode of our Arsenal Agenda series. Join you every week, Monday to Friday at 10 a.m. UK time. Joined, as always, by a couple of fantastic guests. Bailey, how are we doing? Are we good? We well?
Yeah, I'm good, TC, mate. How are you?
Yep, not bad. Not too bad. Chris, are we dealing with the heats? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it could be better.
Yeah.
But it's only set to get worse. So, sort of just dealing with it, and it'll be all right, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. Good morning as well, everybody joining us, and good evening, afternoon, where you happen to be in the world. Everybody joining us live and, of course, on catch up as well. Make sure to drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel for continued coverage of Arsenal's pre-season tour. Our boy Kaya Kanak will be on the ground in the US over the next couple of weeks. So we're looking forward to seeing what's going to be happening whilst the boys travel, of course, and continue their preparations for the brand new season. There are a number of topics that we've got to discuss for today's show. We kick off with the transfer window, as you would expect. The pressure is increasing, Bailey, on Edu. You know, there's less than now a month left until, in fact, we're around the 3-week mark, just over, until pre-season is done and the brand new season will start. What kind of pressure is now on Edu to get some business done before the season does kick off?
Yeah, I think it's important. I think the aim for every team should to have your transfer window completed by the first Premier League game. Unfortunately, that is hardly ever the case. Some clubs do that. I know Liverpool have finished their incomings. I think Manchester City, I don't think they're going to sign Cucurella anymore. So I reckon they've completed their incomings too. I think the best clubs usually have the best transfer windows, and that is by completing it before the Premier League season. So Edu does have a little bit of pressure on his hands, but I know Fabrizio Romano did tweet that despite Arsenal not really being linked to any players, Edu likes to keep it quiet. So we could see a Fabio Vieira situation where suddenly, let's say 4 p.m. today, we might just sign a player. We had no clue. So I think we do have to be patient. We have to wait. Let's not judge him yet. Let's judge when the Premier League season starts. Let's not create a toxic or negative atmosphere around the club. I think we need to wait for that. It's still very early. We haven't yet flew out to America. We're doing it today, of course, but I think we have to wait a little bit. Let's wait a little bit. Let's see what gets done, because a lot of clubs still have a lot of transfer business to do. I think of Chelsea. I think of Manchester United. I think of Tottenham still have a bit of business to do as well. There's business to be done all round. Not everyone can be Manchester City and Liverpool, where they have excellent windows from the start.
Yeah, I mean, that said, I mean, you mentioned there, Man City not getting Cucurella. That might change, who knows? But that's a key target that they're going to miss out on. So even the biggest of clubs aren't getting some key targets. But Chris, there was kind of an expectation around this window. You know, Edu said before the window opens that Arsenal have a plan. They know the players they want to go to. The ownership had kind of signed off on those targets. Do you think that there is obviously a lot going on behind the scenes that we're not aware of? Perhaps as Lucas Paquetá stuff is kind of coming to the surface surrounding that, but also there's frustrations from the fan base about why Youri Tielemans is not being pursued as heavily as maybe we expected to. But what's kind of your expectations between now and the season start?
Well, I think in terms of what we've done already, as a fan, I'm happy. I'm quite relaxed. I think, getting in Gabriel Jesus was massive. Managed to get one of our key targets through the door, and obviously that centre forward position was huge to get bring someone in, because we can't obviously only rely on Eddie and Ketia. So obviously really happy with that. I think with Fabio Vieira, it was a bit of a surprise at the time in terms of his sort of style of play and the where he operates. Usually in a number 10 role or out wide. I guess I thought we were fairly strong, certainly through the middle anyway. But then again, it's extra competition for the likes of Martin Odegaard. We know he can operate in a number 8 role as well in central midfield. So again, give us a bit of depth. I'm excited to see him in action, because I think he's actually a really exciting player, very highly rated, and with a lot of potential. Obviously, we've got Bernd Leno's replacement already through the door, and Matt Turner, and obviously that move to Fulham for Leno is looking likely. With Marquinhos, okay, maybe one for the future. Who knows? You could do a Gabriel Martinelli. You have to wait and see. But a top prospect on our hands, who again has a lot of potential moving forward. So I think to have them 4 already through the door with obviously we've got our trip to the States coming up now. It's decent. It's good to have them through. But yeah, obviously, I mean, between now and that first game of the season away at Palace, I would like to see at least 1 or 2 more come through the door. Of course, you want to be going into the new campaign as strongly as possible. But I think, again, you've got to remember, on paper, if we have Gabriel Jesus starting up front with Martinelli, Saka, Martin Odegaard in behind, if we have our midfield together, our defence, and Tierney's fit and Tomiasu's fit, and Ramsdale's back in goal, Ben White and Gabriel, we've still got a very, very strong team. That team should absolutely be capable of getting 3 points in the first game of the season. So, there is a sense of pressure on Edu. There always will be in a transfer window, no matter what sort of stage you're at during the window. There'll always be pressure on him. I think that they'll be relatively relaxed at the moment. I'm sure maybe Mikel Arteta would have preferred having an extra 1 or 2 players to travel with the squad to the States, because you want to integrate these new players as soon as possible, as quickly as possible, get them familiar with the group, the style of play, the setup, etc. But who knows what could happen? We could have another new signing coming in the next few days. Again, Bailey, you mentioned it. That Fabio Vieira one came out of absolutely nowhere, and I think we're always a few days behind, because I remember when Eddie Nketiah signed that new contract. We just thought it was the day that Eddie Nketiah was signing that new contract, but actually Fabio Vieira was also at the training ground that day, having the tour, signing his deal with the club, and then we don't get to know that until a few days later after that's all happened. So I think the club are always a few days ahead of us, and they, as you mentioned, they do potentially keeping tight-lipped. The club are trying to keep tight-lipped as possible. And yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. But I'm relatively calm. I think we've done well already. Yes, absolutely, there's more to do. And if we can get 1 or 2 more players in before the start of the season, fantastic. But I'm relatively relaxed, and I'm confident that we'll get some more through the door.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really see at this stage, the point in losing my head about Arsenal's transfer situation. As you say, we've done some really good business so far. The potential to do more is obviously there, and there's still plenty of time left before the season starts. It'll be when the season starts that I reserve my judgment until that point, and that's when we can really kind of get into the meat and gravy of what necessarily hasn't gone to plan for Arsenal's window, because the aim would have been absolutely to try and get players in as early as feasibly possible, as we've tried to do with a number of players. We've succeeded with some. We've attempted, in others, with Lisandro Martinez, Rafinha, that's not worked out. But there are now alternatives that we're pushing for. In midfield, though, Bailey, Tielemans and Paquetá look to be the key 2 names right now that are being discussed. And there are similarities between them, but there are, of course, clear differences in their starting position on the field. Do you feel it's a case of one or the other and similar? Or is there any scope, do you think, that Arsenal could go for both?
I don't think for both. I think that's an expensive double deal for 2 midfielders, when I think we plan to play Paquetá on the left-hand side anyway of midfield alongside Tielemans. I think that would be around, let's say, it could be £90 million upwards of that. I don't think we'd pay that. I think I'm not convinced yet by the Paquetá rumours. I'm not believing the hype. I think it would be a transfer that's very, very expensive. I don't believe Arsenal would do that for midfielder. I think if we was going to do that, that would have been a deal that was maybe chased towards the early weeks of the window rather than now. I think that was a deal that would have been in the works because of how expensive it is. I do believe Tielemans is the guy to come in. I do believe he should be the guy to come in also. So I want Tielemans. I want Premier League experience. We know what we're going to get from Tielemans. There's no risk involved in the deal. I know Paquetá would be nice to come in with the Brazilian contingent at the squad. Of course, it would be an excellent addition. I think he is a good player, but with Tielemans, he's cheaper. Let's get him in Premier League experience, 25 billion, and it will allow us to strengthen elsewhere in the field, which we really need to do in terms of the defence and the forward positions. I think if we sign Paquetá, that's a major chunk of our financial budget, and I don't know if we'll be able to sign elsewhere.
Yeah, I think there's scope for us to do plenty regarding 3 positions on the field. The attacking option in Paquetá, what I would look at the defensive midfield option, I think is still something that Arsenal should be considering. And the defensive position, which seems to be this, Grimaldo option. It's interesting, Chris, that, we've swapped from Lisandro Martinez, who was costing upwards of, 35, 40 million, to a player that's only being valued and considered at around 7 million euros. Do you think that's being done with the potential to kind of step up the Paquetá side of things that looks to be a more expensive signing? Yeah,
potentially. I think we've said it before and on here and after sort of watching clips of Grimaldo, for example, Obviously, coming from Benfica, he's obviously familiar with Nuno as well, having played together. But he is more experienced. The only thing with these Grimaldo links that worry me, from what I've seen and heard of the player, is that again he's more of a threat going forward than he is at the back. His attacking game is stronger than the defensive side to his game. So again, that's something that reminds me of Nuno, for example. Excuse me. So yeah, I'm a little bit concerned by that because again, we're talking about competition and obviously support for Kieran Tierney. Kieran Tierney is someone who balances out his game really, really well. We know he's dangerous going forward, but we know he can do a solid job defensively as well. And I mean, really, in today's market with the players that are out there, it shouldn't be too difficult to find someone who is similar. Aaron Hickey, for example, just gone to Brentford. We had Robin Burner on the show, on the Transfer Insight show. We spoke to him about Hickey, and he was saying, he was emphasising just how good Hickey is defensively and sort of going forward as well. He's, in terms of his defensive game, he's worked on that and improved on that a lot over the past season. That's what's made him a standout in Italy. And on top of his versatility, he's got that attacking threat going forward. So it's concerning, maybe that we're sort of all of a sudden going from Lisandro Martinez, who we know is solid defensively. We know he's not afraid to get stuck in. They call him the Butcher because of his aggressive style of play. So yeah, it's I suppose that's the only part that concerns me, TC, if I'm honest, from going from those Martinez links to someone like Grimaldo. I think in terms of their style of play, and the qualities they have, especially defensively, when you compare the two, it's different. So I just hope the club are confident, with whoever they go for in this left-sided defensive position. They're confident they can come in and do a job. They're reliable. They're consistent. Don't get me wrong, Grimaldo, like I said, it seems as if he's got a lot more experience. And he's a lot more consistent in his game compared to someone like Nuno. We know he's been very hot and cold. He's struggled, but again, it just seems as if he's stronger going forward. And I just think we need to find someone who's going to offer us a lot of quality, a lot of stability and security across the back line as well. So we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, there were links to Zinchenko of Manchester City as well. For me, he's my ideal alternative to Martinez because we know he's Premier League proven, he's reliable, he's consistent, versatile as well. We can play obviously at left back and in central midfield. Again, good defensively, but also a threat going forward. So, that would have been ideal for me. But as Bailey mentioned earlier, Cucurella to Manchester City, he's in doubt now with Brighton reportedly opening talks with him over a new deal. So we'll have to wait and see. Anything can happen. But yeah, a little bit concerned about the Grimaldo links. I can't lie.
Yeah, I think that's a completely fair summary of the situation. I mean, I think he's being looked at because of the opportunity to sign him for the price that he's available with a year left on his deal. It's little to no risk for Arsenal. In fact, they sign him, get him on a long-term deal. I think he's arguably worth almost more immediately when he signs. So the value of the player, I think, almost goes up as soon as you sign a player like that for that kind of figure because of the opportunity to get him at that price. He is more of an out-and-out left-back. The Athletic claims that we were in for Martinez to play left-back, not as a left centre-back competitor. Of course, he could play there. With Saliba coming back, who can play both right and left and has done well and did do it really well for Nice while he was there and a couple of games there as well for Marseille and for Saint-Etienne as well. I think that, there is coverage. Pablo Mari's future is uncertain, but at the moment, there's no concrete links with him leaving right now. So, it's possible that he becomes a reintegrated part of the squad, which I know won't excite people. But having depth and, the strength in depth is going to be key for the club going forwards. There's a few people leaving comments about the Grimaldo situation in the chat box. I just want to try and address those quickly. Oso says, I don't like Grimaldo. Saw his game against Liverpool. Just might as well keep Tavares. Terry says some of Grimaldo's statistics aren't very good, but stats might not tell the full story. Lee says rumours was Martinez would come in to play at left back. It was a bonus that he could play in those other positions. I think we're just in for a left back because of Tierney loving an injury. Well, loving an injury in the sense of he gets injuries a lot. I'm sure he doesn't actually love them. It's rather frustrating, I'm sure. Let's move on to the final topic before we take a couple more questions from the chat box. Bailey, myself and you went back and forth on Twitter last night a little bit about Kalidou Koulibaly, and I can see Chris smiling away, little spectator that he is. Chelsea are closing on what looks to be a €40 million move for him. You've been very critical of Chelsea's business, across the window, and don't get me wrong. I don't mind laughing at Chelsea. It's a profession, it is these days, and it's an enjoyable one at that. But I don't agree with kind of the criticism of this deal. I think this is a very good move by Chelsea, getting in a player of that quality. They've lost Rudiger and Christensen. Thiago Silva's probably in his final season with Chelsea this year. And 31 years of age in a system that they play in a back three, of which I assume he would probably play in the middle or either on the left-hand side, whilst he's still got plenty of mobility to his game. I think there's scope for him to be a very good move. And I think there may be parallels to Arsenal with the Kante situation as well. I don't think necessarily on a 5-year deal like Koulibaly, but I certainly think the benefits of bringing in someone like this outweigh the negatives from my view. But give me your side.
Yeah, I think Koulibaly is an excellent signing. I think I rate him as a player. For me, my issue is a 5-year deal. I think people, including UTC, comparing Thiago Silva to Koulibaly is way off the mark, simply because Thiago Silva is an anomaly. There's no other 37-year-old defenders in the Premier League that are still at the top of their game, and there hasn't been. I can't think of a 37-year-old centre-back who dominated their defence. I think once they touch 34, you just see the dip. It happens in Europe as well. I can't think of too many players over the age of 35 who have actually stayed at the level of their game and have actually dominated defense. They usually start to drop. They usually have support around them if they're in a different league. They move leagues. Pepe went to FC Porto, of course, where the Liga NOS is less demanding, and he obviously wasn't playing at the highest level. I think a 5-year contract for Koulibaly is a big risk by Chelsea, and 10 million euros per year as well is not cheap either. I think if it was a 2-year deal or 3-year deal with an extension, maybe option to extend, it might have been a bit better. But 5 years, it's very risky for Chelsea. I think if you lose Rudiger, who was so pivotal to their system, and he was his physicality, his mobility was so important. Koulibaly, yes, in Serie A, excellent, and that's simply because the Serie A is more of a tactical game, more defensive, so you're more protected. You're less likely to get exposed in Serie A, for example, if you're in the Bundesliga or if you're in the Premier League. So his mobility, of course, is there. It will be tested even more in the Premier League. You'll more likely get attacked and more likely have isolation. So that could also cut down on his mobility in seasons to come. So 5 years is a lot of seasons. And Chelsea's transfer business this season it's exciting me as an Arsenal fan, because I don't believe they are going in the right direction with their recruitment. I think Sterling's a good signing, but again, he's not a clinical goal scorer. He's just another Havertz, another Pulisic in that type of department. Koulibaly, of course, is not Antonio Rudiger. And if Thomas Tuchel last season, he did attempt to revert to 4 at the back, which didn't work. I think he wants to go to that system, but he can't seem to find the tools. And Thiago Silva and Koulibaly is a very, very old defence when it's the most busiest season the Premier League will ever see, when you're playing games constantly, having 2 over 30-year-old centre-backs in your team, it will affect you. It will affect you. And I think 5 years for Koulibaly, who will eventually turn 36, is a risky deal.
Fair enough. Chris, why don't you mediate? Come in on this one.
Oh, blimey. I think Koulibaly, really, really good signing for Chelsea, top defender. A bit weird, that he's now, I think 31, and he's only just making this big move, because it's a name that's been around for a very long time. I remember when Manchester United were reportedly showing strong interest in him several years ago now, among other teams. I think he'll do well in the Premier League. I think physically, he's ready for it. He's well built. He'll be difficult to break down and get past. Maybe obviously a lot of the wingers and attackers in football nowadays, especially in the Premier League, is a lot of pace, a lot of tricky feet. It'll be maybe interesting to see how he deals with that side of it. But it'll certainly bring strength. I mean, Rudiger, he was known for his sort of aggressive style of play, his strength at the back, and Koulibaly will sort of bring that as well. I'm not saying he'll match sort of the qualities and the consistencies of Rudiger, but I'm certainly think he's got the capabilities of doing that. But yeah, I mean, I sort of see where Bailey's coming from. A 5-year contract for a 31-year-old is is interesting. I suppose maybe I think it would make sense or more sense to maybe give him something like a 3-year deal, take him up to 34, and then see, how he's done at the end of that, and see how he's feeling physically, and sort of just evaluating his performances over the last few years. Whereas, if he gets to the age of 34 and he's starting to slow down a little bit, or he's not at the level he once was, then Chelsea have got a player on their hands that still got 2 years remaining on his deal. So, I mean, potentially that you could look at it in both ways, couldn't you? It could be Chelsea a bit stuck. They've got a player on their hands that's sort of deep downgrading in terms of performances. But then on the plus side, you can maybe say he's got 2 years on his deal, so they could maybe move him on for a bigger fee. I don't know which way you could look at it, but I mean, yeah, it's interesting. I think Chelsea are taking a different approach with a new owner in. They're going for a lot more of experience. Obviously, Sterling, he's an experienced player at club and international level as well. So I think it's easy to forget actually that Lukaku, experienced in his position for in terms of his age, Rudiger, experienced with his age. I suppose maybe they are just trying to replace that experience in the team. And I mean, in terms of the long-term future for Chelsea, who knows how it'll play out. But I guess they're bringing in names that they're looking to really take off right from the very start, and help them bring in the performances, the results, and the displays they're looking for. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see how it plays out for them. It can go either way, obviously, but I personally think Koulibaly's a good deal for them. Well, at least a good signing. And just whether or not 5 years is the right call, who knows?
Yeah, we'll see. I think that we bring it up because Chelsea are under new ownership. I think opening the door a bit for Arsenal with their kind of erratic business that they're looking to do. They haven't got the same level of preparedness and astuteness when it comes to signing. So there is an opportunity for Arsenal. And I think that if Arsenal are able to be smarter in the market than Chelsea, we can close that gap and perhaps overtake them in the coming seasons. That's got to be the aim. We've got to keep on trying closing and eventually overtake if we want to get back to where we need to be, which is obviously competing for titles, etc. We'll take a couple of comments before we wrap things up briefly. As a question asking, should we go for Ibrahim Sangara or Amadou Onana? Bailey, which one of the two would you lean towards?
Both, but definitely Sangare from PSV. I'm a big fan. I think we should 35 million release clause as well. Would be an excellent signing. I think he's going to be a big player in years to come. So get him in while he's cheap or before another club snaps him up. Also, Amadou Onana as well, very good player. I did a piece. I know people are concerned about Samuel Lokonga and Onana clashing, but don't be. Look at Real Madrid, Rodrigo, Reina and Vinicius Jr. They've absolutely thrived from having that type of competition. So don't be scared by Samuel Lokonga's presence in the squad that we shouldn't be signing Onana. Both would be excellent signings, but of course, I'd go for Sangare.
Ken says Arsenal need to be thinking outside the box. Tomiyasu is ambipedal, meaning he can use both feet. He can deputise for Gabriel Magalhaes. Why are we letting Spurs get a free hit with Jed Spence? I mean, two questions there, I suppose, Chris. The first being, if we don't bring anyone at left centre-back, is there scope for Tomiyasu to cover? But then, is there an argument we should have been pushing more for a right-back this season? Yeah,
potentially. But again, I think, obviously, well, we're all hoping that William Saliba does end up staying, and that gets settled. Obviously, his return does boost us in that area. We know he can fill in at right back if needed, and obviously, primarily, he's a right centre back. So I guess that eases the pressure a little bit in terms of getting a replacement in. Even if he played at right centre back, we know Ben White can also operate at right back if needed, and obviously got Cedric as well. Regardless of what people think of him, he remains an Arsenal player, and it looks like he'll still be an option for us next season. So definitely the return of Saliba helps us in that regard. And I mean, in terms of Jed Spence, look, I've said it before. I did an article on it. I'm just not convinced by his attitude personally. I think in terms of his talent, fair play, he's got that, and I think he's got a lot of potential. Had a great season with Forest, of course. And I can see why he's attracting interest. Absolutely. I don't doubt that side of his game. But there's been a lot of people, including Neil Warnock, come out and speak publicly about his attitude and you know the doubts he has over it. And I just think, you know, Mikel Arteta's worked so hard to, you know, to build a squad that are all on the same page, that all have a great attitude, a great mindset. They're all together in that dressing room. They're supportive of one another. And, you know, it can just take one bad move to sort of to break that up and to damage it. So, you know, I'm sure that's, obviously judging by the business we did last summer with the names we brought in, it's a big part of our recruitment strategy now as well. It's not just about the talent, the potential. It's about the attitude and the personality of that player. And I think, you know, that's continuing to play a big part in our transfer strategy. And I just don't think Jed Spence fits in with that. If I'm being honest, that's just my opinion. And it obviously every player can mature with age. It's important to remember that. So of course he can end up going in the right direction, but I just think it would be a risk for us to go for someone like him.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I think that he's a player that absolutely, you're right, is a risk. But Arsenal do take risks in the window. So we'll see indeed what ends up happening. Thank you so much for tuning in. Really appreciate your time as always. Do drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here with those notifications turned on so you never miss a show. Bailey, thank you so much for your time as always.
Thank you, TC, CD, and everyone in the comment section as well.
Indeed, Chris, thank you, my friends.
Cheers, lads. Pleasure as always. And of course, thank you to everyone tuning in. I hope everyone has a great day.
Indeed. We will see you again on the channel very soon. And as always, keep subscribed to keep up to date with all the latest Arsenal news as Arsenal travel to the US. But it's been a real pleasure, as it always is. And we will see you again very soon. But as always, keep following us down the Arsenal way.
49, 49, playing for the Arsenal.